Lieutenant Frank Drebin, detective, police squad, is not just a police officer. He's a walking, trench coated masterclass in the philosophy of act now, apologize later. The fact that he hasn't accidentally ended the world yet is pure Hollywood magic. But how does one properly apply this level of unhinged chaos to the mundane misery of an average Tuesday? We ask these tough questions. Is it better to blunder through life like a detective with no depth perception or be paralyzed by the existential dread of overthinking? We're also addressing the real issues of the day. How do we make amends for our mistakes? Is a dramatic slow motion apology enough? Is the British royal family secretly hiding a talent for baseball? Did Hannibal's elephants leave tiny review cards at his secret Carthaginian comedy club? And most importantly, is Betty White the key to acing that dreaded corporate job interview? Don't miss this bizarre blend of surprisingly solid life advice and mostly unstructured nonsense coming up next on today's Box Office Babbler. Queen Elizabeth II was widely regarded as an unparalleled example of stoic, tea sipping grace throughout her long reign. While often more popular abroad than at home, especially in the early 1980s before her family's drama became a global reality show, her international reputation for stability was immense. Her likeness has been interpreted by numerous superb actresses, most notably Helen Mirren, who gave an Oscar winning performance capturing the Queen's calm resolve in the face of national mourning. However, she has also been extensively parodied, most notably by actress Jeanette Charles in films like The Naked Gun, a role that involved the Queen delivering a human sized turkey of a ceremonial first pitch before being accidentally flattened by a stadium mascot. Forget everything you know about detective work, competence, and basic physics, because Leslie Nielsen's Frank Drebin is on the case. The Naked Gun is a story of a granite jawed, rock brained police lieutenant who accidentally stumbles through a plot to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II, at a baseball game, naturally. To foil the plot, Frank must wear every ridiculous costume available, have a hilarious, earnest romance with the villain's completely oblivious assistant, mistakenly identify a sex crazed inflatable beaver as evidence, ruin an entire Major League Baseball game while disguised as an opera singing umpire named Enrico Palazzo, defeat the villain, who then gets run over by a bus, a steamroller, and finally trampled by the USC marching band. It's basically a police procedural where every single sight gag and non sequitur that the writers could think of not only happens, but is treated by Drebin with the utmost deadpan seriousness. He's a bumbling cop who somehow saves the world, mostly by causing so much unrelated chaos that the bad guys just give up. Film critic Roger Ebert said in his review of the film that some of the jokes are dumber than dumb. He compared reviewing it to a Rodney Dangerfield monologue, and then, in a clear overreaction, stated he would rather review a film by Ingmar Bergman, a director whose movies make you question why you paid for the ticket, let alone the popcorn. Ebert didn't get it. He took the emotional temperature of a whoopee cushion and found it lacking. As the Mystery Science Theater 3000 opening chorus commands, repeat to yourself, it's just a show. I should sit back and relax. This is a comedy, not a constitutional amendment. It's supposed to be fun. While Ebert was busy sharpening his critical scalpel, he missed the point entirely. Thankfully, we're here to scoop up the meaning he discarded, because even though this is a silly comedy, there are some lessons to be learned. Lessons that will definitely be on the final exam. Actually, Ebert, in spite of the vitriol which he loved to spew, gave the film 3.5 stars. One for Leslie Nielsen's ability to keep a straight face while running with scissors, one for Priscilla Presley's hair volume in the opening scene, and one for Ricardo Montalban's dedication to the craft of being Ricardo Montalban, and half for O.J. Simpson's tie clip. The other half of a star, as we all know, was used to pay the rental fee on a very recognizable white Ford Bronco. Leslie Nielsen was once a serious actor, a man whose face was scientifically engineered to convey gravitas in expensive suits. Then came a hilarious episode of MASH, followed by one comedy meteor that was Airplane, and then suddenly the serious switch was permanently fused into the off position. His comedy was officially born. He was the only actor who could play both the straight man and the punchline, somehow achieving the impossible feat of being Abbott and Costello rolled into one. He delivered lines with the intense solemnity of an opera singer lamenting his lost lunch, and we wept with laughter. His genius wasn't the joke, it was the placement. Nielsen, whether a doctor or on a doomed plane or a bumbling cop who couldn't find his own hat, made us laugh simply by saying the right thing at the most baffling, hilarious, wrong moment. O.J. Simpson played Norberg, a detective who achieves a new level of physical comedy, the accidental masochistic performance art genre. This isn't just slapstick, it's a doctoral thesis on human suffering that makes the Three Stooges look like a Swan Lake B team. You feel so bad for the guy that, that you feel bad for laughing. And then you realize you're laughing at a man whose medical bills could fund a small nation, and you feel even worse. And then you laugh. The only person in the police squad who can competently operate a doorknob is Captain Ed Hawken, played by the late great George Kennedy. Kennedy, of course, never signed up for a single bad film, except for that entire airport franchise, a fact which likely explains why he spends most of this movie looking mildly disappointed in everyone. And then there's Priscilla Presley, the wild card. The first rule of film: never cast someone you don't believe can do comedy. But there she is, and she's phenomenal. She manages to be more genuinely hilarious in this movie than her entire televised marriage to Elvis. That's comedy gold. Falling up is a term motivational speakers overuse, and frankly, I'm tired of it. Everyone stitched into a sweaty doomed meat suit has made a mistake. But in this film, Detective Frank Drebin isn't falling up. He's simply falling over repeatedly and possibly into an industrial wood chipper. He doesn't just make mistakes, he crafts masterpieces of catastrophic incompetence. From the moment he takes a podium meant for Weird Al Yankovic to the moment he proposes to Jane Spencer, nothing succeeds. The bad guys get away. He accidentally incinerates a city block by plugging in his toaster. And yes, he serenades an entire press conference with the sound of his deeply unfortunate bathroom break. This man is not a detective. He's a walking, talking insurance claim. Frank Drebin doesn't fall up. He falls over and over and over again. Seriously, recovering from mistakes is very human. Like when an ordinary person accidentally uses the wrong fork. Not when Frank Drebin accidentally steers a tanker into a fireworks factory while performing CPR on a beaver. According to psychologist Beverly Lewis, there are 5 steps to learning from your mistakes. Now, is this a guide on how to become the Naked Gun's Frank Drebin? Absolutely not. If you follow his example, your mistakes will require an international task force and a very large cleanup crew. First, take ownership of the mistake. Blaming others makes you powerless. It's a courageous act to stand up and say, "My bad, I'll fix it." Conversely, Frank Drebin is so oblivious to the chaos he causes, he usually blames the inanimate object he tripped over, the wind, or a highly organized team of saboteurs who are secretly terrified of him. If you've just destroyed a building, don't ask, "Did that pigeon have a bomb?" Second, apologize sincerely for your mistakes. It shows humility and respect. A proper apology says, "I messed up, and I understand why." Frank Drebin will occasionally say, I'm sorry, but it's often delivered with the timing of a master comedian and usually is followed by, that you're standing in the path of this runaway Zamboni. His apologies aren't for the mistakes, they're just another hilarious setup. Third, learn from your mistakes and consider how to avoid repeating them. Frank Drebin is indeed earnestly incompetent, which is a polite way of saying his memory capacity is roughly that of a goldfish who's just had a mild concussion. Learning implies you won't make the same mistake again. Frank will make the same mistake, only louder, more confidently, and involving more collateral damage within a 90-second window. Fourth, maintain perspective. Ask yourself, 5 years from now, how important will this mistake really be? Unless the mistake involved an alligator and a national monument, that one might stick. To do this, you need self awareness. Frank Drebin, his perspective is that he's definitely the smartest person in the room and everyone else is just badly parked. For you, you have self awareness in abundance. Use it. Fifth, forgive yourself and move on. This requires feeling at least a smidgen of remorse, which itself is only possible if you are, self aware. Frank Drebin checks neither box because, in his mind, he has nothing to forgive. He simply assumes the universe constantly conspires to make his actions look like mistakes. He moves on immediately, but only because he's distracted by an emergency requiring him to wear a ridiculous disguise and drive a forklift into a sporting event. Frank Drebin often acted without thinking. In fact, his entire thought process could readily be summed up as see thing, do opposite of sensible thing, achieve accidental success. When we're shown his inner monologue, it's usually a hilarious stream of non sequiturs, not the deep philosophical angst you'd expect from a true noir hero. That said, while you shouldn't try and solve a complicated hostage crisis by juggling flaming chainsaws, Drebin does highlight a real problem: overthinking. Sometimes, when we aren't paralyzed by overthinking, we're just plain too hesitant. It's natural to be risk averse, which is a good thing if you're inspecting a gas leak, but it's bad if you're waiting for the perfect moment to ask for a raise. A prime, real world example of someone who's suffering from terminal overthinking was Charles Darwin. He knew his earth shattering publications went directly against the accepted biblical paradigm. So the brilliant man developed the theory of evolution in the 1830s and then proceeded to spend the next 2 decades meticulously counting barnacles instead of publishing. Intellectual paralysis is a cruel double edged sword. Darwin only released On the Origin of Species in 1859 after he received a terrifying "We're on to you" note from a younger scientist, Alfred Russel Wallace. If Frank Drebin had developed the theory of evolution, he would have published it on a napkin while running across the street, misspelling all the hard words, and then immediately forgotten what he'd done. He definitely wouldn't have waited for Nordberg. The lesson isn't to be a buffoon, but to realize that when is often as important as what. It's vital to weigh the consequences of your actions, but unlike Drebin, who weighs his actions with an expired coupon and a rubber chicken, you should have to remember to act at the proper time. Don't wait until you've created a 47-point pro and con list, and then Drebin has already stumbled onto a solution, arrested the villain, and inadvertently caused $5 million in property damage. The time to act is now, not after you've reorganized your sock drawer for the third time. If there is one positive lesson from the Naked Gun movies, it's this: give your serious side the day off and let your silly side commandeer a driving lesson. We all know life is difficult. It's a never ending cycle of paying bills and trying to remember where you parked. But this series is pure glorious parody. We shouldn't just suspend belief, we should take off our reality glasses, crush them with a mallet, and feed them to a small, bewildered badger. Seriously, none of the plot makes sense. From one botched wiretap to Frank Drebin somehow passing a competency evaluation, sometimes you have to accept the fantasy, embrace the absurdity, and laugh so hard you accidentally snort your hot and expensive cappuccino through your nose. Just before the Battle of Cannae, when the Carthaginian general Gisco fretted over the sheer terrifying scale of the Roman army, Hannibal reportedly cracked one of history's most effective jokes. You see all those men out there? Among all those men, there is not a single one named Gisco. The troops laughed, their spirits lifted, and they subsequently went on to completely demolish the Roman army in one of history's greatest military feats. That, my friends, is effective coping. My own moment of Cannae came a few years ago when I was fired from my job. I was depressed. I felt I wasn't given a fair chance and realized I needed my own source of morale. My strategic counterattack wasn't a flanking mover. It was the gentle, low stakes chaos of daytime television. While I searched through LinkedIn for a new position, I kept episodes of the match game running. Hearing G. Rayburn ask a celebrity panel to fill in a hilarious blank was my own personal Gisco joke. It worked. I found a new job in 3 weeks. So forget the Punic Wars. If you're ever in a professional crisis, just remember you can't be sad when Betty White is on a game show. And by the way, I'm still at the new company and doing great. Thanks. The Naked Gun is pure, unadulterated, silly fun. It doesn't rank on AFI's top 100 comedies because it's not trying to be high art. It's trying to make you snort milk out your nose. If you want profound commentary in a comedy, go watch Duck Soup or Tootsie. If you want to forget about life and just laugh until your face hurts, this is the cinematic equivalent of a whoopee cushion. Now, for my next project, I'm planning to tackle Star Trek, the motion picture. So far, comments on this channel have been civil and respectful, and that's probably about to end. This upcoming episode will mark my 24th and a full year dedicated to my love of film. And what better way to celebrate than by igniting a fandom war? As the holidays approach, I thought we'd revisit a seasonal classic. Last year, we debated everybody's favorite Christmas movie, Die Hard. This year, let's talk about the absolute worst thing that could happen to Ralphie's eye as we dive into the nostalgic, trauma inducing world of A Christmas Story. See you then, and please keep your BB guns pointed away from the comment section.